All right, and we move on to another story out of Asia. South Korea, Japan, and the United States are launching joint large-scale military exercises in East Asian waters. They're seeking to deepen ties in the face of an increasingly assertive China and restive North Korea. But the drills have taken on an even greater sense of urgency after Moscow and Pyongyang signed a new strategic partnership. DW's East Asia correspondent James Chatter reports.
This month, the Coast Guards of South Korea, Japan and the United States in lockstep during drills in East Asian waters. The three countries have recently held more joint exercises, drawing closer in the face of an increasingly assertive China and unpredictable North Korea. Now, though, military ties are set to deepen further. This week, the nuclear-powered US aircraft carrier, the Theodore Roosevelt, docked in South Korea ahead of the Freedom Edge exercises, the first multi-domain drills between the three nations. That means exercises across different military units, like air, sea, and cyberspace.
The intent is to improve the interoperability between our navies, and the intent is to ensure that we are ready to respond to any crisis or contingency.
But preparing for any crisis has been made more complex by this. Russia and North Korea last week inked a new strategic partnership, including a mutual defense pact, prompting concerns Moscow could supply Pyongyang with intelligence for its weapons programs. Its two leaders, Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, united in opposition to the US and its Asian allies.
We see what is happening in Asia. A bloc is forming. NATO is already moving to Asia as if to a permanent place of residence. This, of course, creates a threat to all countries in the region, including Russia. We are obliged to respond to this and will.
Both the US and its adversaries blame each other for stoking confrontation. While that's testing the limits of alliances in Asia, in these drills, the US wants to ensure that itself and its partners are ready if conflict comes.
Earlier, I spoke with Mark Montgomery, a former rear admiral in the U.S. Navy, and asked him to put the current exercises in perspective.
Well, first, thanks for having me. And you're right, these are unusual drills because they're trilateral exercises between the United States, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. I won't say they're unique in the sense that they haven't happened before. About every 10 years, the countries are able to come to the politics of the countries, particularly Japan and Korea, come together so they can do these kind of exercises. The United States saw that opportunity again, has worked very hard over the last 3 years with scores of trilateral meetings in order to set up these kind of complex exercises that demonstrate the interoperability and improve the interoperability between the navies of Korea, Japan, and the United States.
We know that these three nations, the U.S., South Korea, and Japan, are really seeking a new level of cooperation following last summer's Camp David summit. How ambitious are their efforts, and how far do they extend?
I think this is a good exercise. It has undersea warfare, which is submarines. Countries sometimes don't like to demonstrate their capabilities to each other, so the fact that the three countries are doing that is significant. Then there's air defense exercises, which have happened for years because of the ballistic missile threat of North Korea, which impacts South Korea, Japan, and the United States. We actually have done those exercises quietly over the last decade. But the anti-submarine warfare, the maritime or anti-ship warfare that exercises are going in are significant, and they demonstrate a capability that should serve to deter the North Koreans from taking any inappropriate actions.
You said some of these exercises have been done quietly in the past. We know that there's a newly signed partnership between North Korea and Russia, for example. Are some of the quiet parts now becoming louder as these allies try and flex deterrence muscle?
Well, that's exactly it. I think we're trying to show that we're an actual alliance, between partners. I think what North Korea and Russia have is a transactional alliance. In other words, Russia was generally ignoring North Korea, so they needed the large artillery shells, of which North Korea sent over 2 million shells to the Russians to fight against Ukraine with, and ballistic missile parts and ballistic missiles that they've used to fire into Ukraine. So Russia suddenly needed North Korea transactionally, and as a result, they're now passing some technology to the North Koreans. That technology, in turn, causes the United States, Japan, and Korea to want to work closer together to combat any new threats from the North Koreans.
And that was Mark Montgomery with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.